Hey everybody, it's Life After Death. Today we're talking about the difference between the kingdom of celestial angels versus the kingdom of spiritual angels. So like a good icebreaker at a party is what you already talk about at dinner. Anyway, in the world, people belong to groups. Sure, we're all human beings, but there are different groups of us. We have countries. You live in some country. Just admit it. You live in a country somewhere. Within that country, there's a particular region that you're in. There may be a city that you live in. Maybe there's a sports team you've pledged your allegiance to. People have different school districts that they're in. They have different religions that they're in. They have different companies that they're a part of. People are in different groups. Heaven is divided into groups as well. Swedenborg says there's actually multiple kinds of divisions. Heaven is divided into two kingdoms, boom, that's this episode, more specifically into three heavens, and in detail into countless communities. It's important to understand heaven is not just like there, everything to the right-hand side of this line is heaven. It's all heaven. Heaven is a bunch of communities that can even be geographically distant, but because they are the same in their hearts and minds, they all make a single heaven. Heaven, too, is divided into categories. But whereas here, we have those countries and all those other things I mentioned, that's based on stuff like geography. And you are where you are because of you were maybe born in that region, or this is where you can afford to live, or your job is there. Heaven is differentiated into categories because of the way that love shapes things. Love drives all structure in the spiritual world. Swedenborg says there are angels who accept the divine nature that emanates from the Lord on a deeper level, and angels who accept it less deeply. All divisions are based on your response to love. The ones who accept it more deeply are called heavenly angels, some translations, celestial angels. And the ones who accept it less deeply are called spiritual angels. Heaven is therefore, because of that difference in love, divided into two kingdoms, one called the heavenly kingdom and the other called the spiritual kingdom. May I confuse you for a minute here? Thank you. This is a map of the spiritual world. You have three, like Swedenborg says, you have three heavens in it. You have a third or inmost heaven, a second or middle heaven, and a first or outermost heaven. Within the third or inmost heaven, there are heavenly angels. Within the second heaven, there are spiritual angels. There is a heavenly kingdom and a spiritual kingdom. And the heavenly kingdom is made up of these angels here, and the spiritual kingdom is made up of these angels here. But that's not the total extent of these two kingdoms, because there's a third heaven. Are you with me? There's a third heaven, and the angels in there, Swedenborg calls natural angels. But really, you can divide these natural angels into two groups, two kinds of people, two ways of responding to love in this outermost heaven. Either you are natural with like a spiritual bent to you, in which case Swedenborg calls you natural spiritual, and you actually, while you're living your life in this first or outermost heaven, which is the heaven you go to when that's the kind of response you have to God's love, you are actually in touch with spiritual angels in the heaven above you and kind of communicating with them or being influenced by them. Or you may find yourself in the outermost heaven, but you have a heavenly or celestial way about you. You share something in common with the way that these celestial angels process love. These are the three heavens, inmost, middle, outermost, and everything yellow is the heavenly kingdom. If you've got yellow on you, you're part of the heavenly kingdom. So these angels plus all of these angels, and the spiritual kingdom is these angels plus all of these angels. Just like you can say, oh, I'm American, but I also live in Pennsylvania. Just an example. I don't know who actually does that, but that is the divisions that occur in heaven. And it is because of the kinds of love that go through. Further confusion. We talk about these angels here being both higher, but sometimes Swedenborg will call them deeper as well. That as you're going deeper into the center, you're also going higher. That is because, spiritually speaking, it's the same thing. Higher or deeper are the same thing. You see this in the way that you talk and think. Because if you say, wow, what you said was really deep, or you say, wow, that just really took me higher, it means the same thing. It means good. They both mean good. That's because that way of thinking comes from the spiritual reality. If you think about, to try to lay out a three-dimensional picture of this, if you had tears raising up here, sort of like a wedding cake, as you moved in here, you'd be moving higher, up tiers. But if you looked from above, you'd see you're also moving inward at the same time as you move higher. Another confusing metaphor is, think about, you may think on Earth, oh, if you go higher, you're actually not going deeper, because deeper would be toward the center of the Earth. But if you think of the sun as the center of the solar system, you can be going deeper toward it. The Lord is the center of reality. So the higher you go toward him, you're also going deeper. So there is differentiation of groups in heaven. And you might think, this is going to lead to discontent and problems. And what's up with that is the situation that the Lord is saying, well, my favorite people are going to be here. These are my people I actually really like to hang out with. Then some of you, I'm going to put you here, and some of you, I'm going to put you there. And maybe these people here are feeling like, well, I wish I could go up there. And I don't like it here. I wish I could go down there. We might think that way because we think in an earthly manner. That is not how you think when you're in heaven, because heaven is primarily a state of mind. And being here, first of all, heaven is the impulse to wish better for others than for yourself. Actually, that you are happy when you think about someone else's happiness. So anyone thinking, oh, this angel is deeper into heaven than me, or higher up in heaven than me, you're excited for them. You think, wow, they would love that. That is probably making them feel great, and I'm so glad, and I'm excited that they are where they are. Also, the other pillar of the heavenly mindset is that you think that God knows what's going on. Yeah, I like God. I'd want God to run this. So if you know divine providence is placing someone wherever they've got to go, you feel like, yeah, good. They're only there because God can do good things through them there for all of us and bring everyone into happiness. That's what heaven is. The placement of people, this is not God placing people. They're not fences that you can't cross. This is everybody naturally going to where they can be the happiest. A good way to understand this is to think about the most beautiful thing in the world, which is tide pools. You know tide pools, right? You've watched a lot of TV programs, extensive, low-budget TV programs about tide pools and their life. No, that's just me. I'm the one who did that. Well, let me tell you a little bit about tide pools. A tide pool is a place near the ocean. Come on, they're so cool. It's a place near the ocean where waves and stuff splash on there and a tide comes up, and at times you get this little pool of water when the tide goes out. So there are different zones in a tide pool. At the bottom, you have a zone that's always covered in water. Even when the tide is low, there's water there. When the tide goes high, there's still water there. In the middle, you have some zones where it's a little of both. Sometimes it's empty. Sometimes it's full. Sometimes more or less often, depending on which zone you're in there. So you're dealing with a mix of air and water. And then at the very tippy top, it's a place where it's never covered in water. You get sprayed there, but it's never covered in water. There are different kinds of creatures that live in all those different zones. And they go there because that zone has the exact right mix of water and not water that's perfect for them. A creature that lives in the bottom that's constantly submerged would not want to go to the top. They would actually die up there. They would not get what they want. They would not be happy. A creature that's in the middle doesn't want to go to the bottom where they're constantly submerged. Everyone is there because they are getting exactly what they need for their happiness there. In heaven, it's not water and air, it is love and truth. Everybody goes to where they get the right mix of love and truth that creates the best celestial tide pool habitat for them. Swedenborg writes, the love that envelops people in the heavenly kingdom is called heavenly love. That's a good coincidence. The love that envelops people in the spiritual kingdom is called spiritual love. Heavenly love is love for the Lord. Spiritual love is love for the neighbor. Now, some people are like, I feel at home. I love spiritual love. I feel at home. I love heavenly love. Love for the Lord is essentially the love of what is good. So I'm moved by, I follow, I take delight in things that are good that happen. The love of the neighbor is the love of the truth. So I follow, I structure my life around, I'm delighted by seeing what is true about life. If you want to see a more extensive explanation about what both of those are and how they differ, check out this episode that we just did about that. That is what drives these heavens. There's different kinds of love that are in them, and the different ways we receive the single love coming out from God makes it so we have our particular comfort zone. Wherever we're comfortable, that's where we get to go in the kingdom of God. By the way, why do we use that word kingdom as an old school sounding word? Swedenborg uses it because the Bible is constantly talking about this. Talking about how there are these two ways of being, these two kingdoms in heaven. So when it's talking about the kingdom of God, it's talking about heaven. And you'll see in different parts of the Bible, it will use different language when it's talking about these two different ways of life. Whenever it's talking about priests or priestly things in the Bible, or when it uses the phrase God's dwelling, that's talking about the heavenly kingdom and that heavenly part of life. And whenever it's talking about the royalty or God's throne, God as like a ruler, it's talking about the spiritual kingdom. It's talking about the different ways that love and truth affect us. Even the name of God is staring you right in the face. Jesus Christ. According to Swedenborg, Jesus has to do with the Lord's heavenly divine nature, and Christ has to do with the Lord's spiritual divine nature. So in everything, there are these two elements. It's all over the Bible, and it shapes the way that heaven is. And the reason that you have people adopting these two different ways of living and ending up where they end up is because there's two primary paths of following God. All right, let's talk about the two paths. We're not going to need natural angels here. We'll bring you back another episode. God is always tapping you on the shoulder. The thing that Swedenborg observed without question is that God is constantly like in your mind saying, hey, here's goodness, here's truth. I'm going to try to connect with you and work with you and show you the way to live life. Like that is always there. And there's a more direct way to respond to that and a more indirect way to respond to it. The celestial or heavenly heaven is like it is because it responds directly and immediately to God's urging, whereas the second or middle heaven responds by a less direct, less immediate route. Swedenborg says of the heavenly angels, they live in love for the Lord and are therefore more intimately united to him. The reason for their excellence, heavenly angels have amazing wisdom and splendor, is I guess a word, that old-timey word that means they got it going on. The reason for their excellence is that they have accepted divine truths directly into their lives and continue to do so, rather than taking them into memory and thought first. So there's a bit of a bypass of the rumination stage. This means that they have those truths engraved on their hearts and grasp them, virtually see them within themselves. They never calculate whether or not they are true. which sounds awesome. You know, the rest of us, we're here like, what's the right way to go? Is this true or not? Can I really be like this? Do I need to? Heavenly angels just like, oh yeah, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing. They know who they are. Again, I'm telling you, this stuff is in the Bible. In Jeremiah, Swedenborg says it's describing this state of being when it says, I will put my law in their mind and engrave it on their heart. No longer will one person teach a friend or a brother saying, know Jehovah. From the smallest to the greatest, they will know me. I mean, come on, man. That's what we're doing right now is I'm saying in this video, hey, get to know God. This is how God works. This is how heaven works. That quote is saying you're not going to need stuff like this anymore. And just because, like, imagine that you not only knew everything that, in this case, Swedenborg is talking about, but you had experienced it yourself and you lived it every day. It was just obvious. It's like for me to say, hey, there's a sky and the ground. You wear shoes when you walk around. Stuff that you know. That's how it is for the heavenly mindset with stuff like that love is the most important thing. God exists in the nature of our connection to God. What it is that brings joy in the greatest abundance in the long. It's just obvious. What is right and what is wrong to do to other human beings. It's just like, it's right there. They got it all the time. That's the heavenly root. The divine truth is coming to everyone all the time. The celestial or the heavenly way of being is you hear that, or in whatever way it reaches out to you, goes right into your intentions. And from your intentions, right into your action. So you could be a heavenly angel and go to some seminar or training session, learn something that's really cool, and that day, that's who you are after that. Angels receive the truth from God, and it's in their work right away. They do it. They don't want to mess around. The other way, which is the way that all of us do it, and even the spiritual angels do it this way, but just on the most evolved, deepest way, is that the Lord's influence comes to us and actually touches our hearts initially. But we take that and take the concepts associated with that and bring them up into our minds, into our thought, and particularly into our memory. Like we learn, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, but then it just sits there. And the ideas you can know a lot of really good stuff and a lot of really good principles, but it's not how you really act. And it's not really how you want to act, or you don't really, when push comes to shove, you don't value it more than the normal egoic kind of way of being. It's hard. It's just hard to do. New Year's resolutions. And there's this joke that we say, hey, this is the beginning of the year. I know there's a different way I'm supposed to live than I have been living, and I'm going to go do it. And I do it for 4 days, and then I'm going to go back to how I was. Because it's hard to change how we are. That's just the nature of this indirect way of being. You can get to a cool mode of life there, though, where you have good intentions lead to actions, which are goodness, and the ideas that spring from good intentions are the truth. We have a continuous loop where, that influence from God gets out into our actions. It just takes a little more time. Nothing wrong with that. Actually, there are some advantages to that way of doing things. Swedenborg says, interestingly enough, that all of the teaching, all of the preaching in heaven comes from the spiritual kingdom. Actually, the spiritual angels will teach the heavenly angels about things, because heavenly angels don't sit there and consider truths. They go and they do them. So it's not to say that one of the processes is inferior. It's just more or less direct. So they're both good and helpful, but they're different. And they're different enough that actually it takes a bit of doing to get those two heavens and those two different kinds of people that live there to connect. You might think, it's heaven. It's heaven. We're talking about heaven, man. It's all love. You got these two different kingdoms. Sure, okay. But everybody there, it's just like they're all friends. They can all get along. They're friends in that they love each other. But there is an order and structure, and it actually takes some doing to get these two kingdoms to communicate with each other. Think about it like the heart and the lungs. Swedenborg says that the heavenly kingdom is like the heart in a human body. It plays the role that the heart plays, and the spiritual kingdom is like the lungs in a human body. Plays the role that the lungs play. Think about in you. The heart and the lungs, are they on the same team? Do they love each other? Yeah. But they're different. They have to be. They move at different rhythms. They need to be in different spaces. They have to have membranes and things in between because they're doing different things. They're different kinds of people. You can't just say, well, let's just, the heart and lungs love each other. Let's just mush them together and see what happens. No. But they are connected in a specific way. In our body, you have the pulmonary stuff. So the pulmonary arteries, the pulmonary veins, that takes the blood from the heart and allows it to mix with the oxygen that the lungs are bringing in. And from there, they can communicate. There's the equivalent. There's the equivalent of the pulmonary arteries and veins in heaven. In heaven, you have the heavenly and the spiritual, and then you have certain societies of angels that Swedenborg calls, just to introduce one more kind of angel to you, heavenly spiritual. These are communities that Swedenborg describes as being particularly mentally flexible. So the people that live there, they don't have a very rigid, tight grip on what they believe and understand. And so they're able somehow, he doesn't go into great detail, to take the love of the neighbor, truth-led life and influence of the spiritual heaven and the love of God, love-led life of the heavenly heaven, and allow those to pass through in a way that it connects the two heavens together. Again, there are all kinds of people in heaven. There are all kinds of communities in heaven where the kind of mind that you have, you in particular, who knows where you'll be and how you'll make heaven as a whole better. Could be that you've got the right kind of mind where you can negotiate that and get these two heavens to work together. But it takes doing. There's not just love, there's also structure and wisdom, because that's how you make a complex machine like heaven is go and be able to accomplish great things. All right, let's get everybody back out here. Big reunion tour. You have in heaven two kingdoms. There is the heavenly kingdom and then the spiritual kingdom. This exists in the way people live after death. But these two kingdoms are everywhere, in everything. They occur holographically in everything. Even within God, there is divine love and divine wisdom. And these two things are different, but united in God. And that's really important. Swedenborg talks at length about how important it is that love and wisdom are together. And that the goal of divine providence, what God is doing in life, the divine intent is always to bring love and wisdom back together. So it's important to have these two different heavens. It's important to have them working together. But this is also something that can happen inside of you, because the kingdoms exist inside you. We talked about the heart and the lungs, and like you have a little miniature physical version of that, but also in your mind. You have a will, your feelings and intentions, and then you have an intellect, which is your thoughts and your ability to understand things. Those two are miniature versions of the heavenly kingdom and the spiritual kingdom. So this is not just talking about afterlife. This is talking about how you work and what you do day to day. Those little connector communities, there's things, concepts and feelings in you that kind of connect that bridge in you as well. You can be this instance of the heart and the mind getting together. And all we got to do to make that happen is have it so that what we feel and intend and what we say and how we act line up with each other, and that both those things are pointed toward what's good. That either they're loving the truth or they're loving what's good, and then they're working toward that. And if we can get to that place, you can have the heavenly kingdom inside you. You can have the spiritual kingdom inside you. Just like you have certain angels that are tapped into these higher levels of the kingdom, man, you can do the same thing. You could be walking around constantly tuned in to your spiritual or heavenly peeps up there. And we can all let's literally bring that heaven into earth all the time. That's cool, because then God's kingdom is not just out there, it's like everywhere. And wherever God's kingdom is, that leads toward God's goal, which is making everybody profoundly and fully happy forever, which is not so bad. I would join that kingdom.